This morning, we're focusing on the views from transport operators in relation to the postponement or rather delay of the 16% fare increase. The government and transport operators have reached an agreement to defer the implementation of the 16% fare increase that was due yesterday. The decision was made on Thursday following a meeting between government officials and stakeholders in the transport sector to discuss the impending increase. The meeting included the Finance Minister, Dr. Nigel Clark, Transport Minister Darrell Vaz, the Transport Authority, and members of the Transport Operators Steering Committee.
In asking the sector for a deferral, Dr. Clark cited the need to maintain inflation in single digits in order to keep the economy on course. He also acknowledged the hardship faced by the sector players and what a fare increase would mean for their operations. He did note, however, that the sector has one of the largest impacts on inflation. The Transport Minister Darrell Vaz commended the operators for accepting the deferral and gave his commitment to continue to working with the operators to identify and agree on other incentives.
Minister Vaz mandated the Transport Operators Steering Committee to meet and design a comprehensive transportation incentive framework, which would include measures that would have a less adverse impact on inflation. For reaction now, we're being joined by President of the Transport Operators Development Sustainable Services, TODS, Egerton Newman, and Director at the National Council of Taxi Associations, that's NCOTA, Dion Chance. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning, Tana. Good morning, George. And welcome, George, to the big show.
Welcome.
I will teach the ropes.
Thank you. Yeah, man. I'm learning from her already.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Nationwide this morning. Just to hear from you, Dion, before we go to Egerton Newman, what's your position on what has been agreed on, not to go with the 16% increase at this time to delay it?
Okay, well, both Mr. Newman and myself were present at the meeting with both the ministers. Mm-hmm. And based on what was put forward and the fact that it is not a situation where the increase is being taken away, which is what's being deferred for economic reasons. But from where I sit, I have to strike a balance because I'm also a member of the steering committee that look at things and make recommendations to the minister. From the association that I am responsible for, which is the St. James Taxi Association, the mood among the members is somewhat mixed. I think it is more of a shock and disappointment more than anything else. And the general argument that is coming from the members is one of being upset and feeling as if they were slapped in the face, and the popular argument is all members of parliament took 300% increase on their salaries, and the economy was never ever looked at it in terms of inflation. And I'm just speaking raw language of what is coming over, and that the taxi fraternity is always at the back, so to speak. And whenever there is a time for anything to be given to members of the taxi fraternity, even the general public comes up against it. One member made an argument that, he agrees that our service is mainly for the poorer class of persons. But his vexed issue is that you never hear these same people arguing about minimum wage, which is what they get with respect to being able to survive in the economy. But as soon as a dollar is added to the taxman's intake, it creates a problem as if a national disgrace or a national problem is being put forward because the taxi fraternity is to get something. And it breeds some form of distrust from the members when it comes to the system, and I can't say that I blame them, because once you don't understand and certain things are not put forth, and then you're promised certain things, like the $200 million for the revolving loan being given to the commercial banks by that government entity at 3% to be loaned to taxi drivers, and when our members show up at the bank they're being told that that same money is going at 18 and 20%. So these are some of the issues that are driving the feeling among the members. Because as far as I'm concerned, a fare increase will never solve our problem, because that is only one of the dimensions that go into the whole aspect of survival in the industry. And there are many other things. I mean, we've been mandated to look at some stuff, and we're going to be putting forward some stuff, some of what.
And just before getting to those measures, Mr. Chance, that you'll present before the steering committee, so the feeling from your members is that they're disappointed and they're upset. But have they
Very much so.
but have they indicated to you that there could be any pushback against the decision in the form of strike?
Well, not from where I sit with my members and the conversation that is going in our WhatsApp group. It is more of not trusting the system. It is saying that here we go again, where something was given, and they're seeing it as it being taken back, but not really being deferred. So it's for persons in leadership now to try to explain and have them see it, and government also to act in unison with the leaders of the fraternity to ensure that there are things that will come that will provide some form of relief. Because a fare increase is only temporary, because when everything else goes, so goes the little profit that you make.
Edgerton Newman, sorry, Dion. Edgerton Newman, the issues that not the issues, the presentation that the finance minister made at that meeting last week, what did he say?
You know, first of all, let me endorse everything that my colleague Chance has said. Now, you know, you asked me a very tough question. I must answer it as tough as I can. Now, the presentation by Minister Clark was not needed. Because most of us, I knew from his budget presentation that we weren't going to get a fair increase. I also knew from the debacle between the Bank of Jamaica and the JUTC fare reduction that we weren't going to get the fare increase. So the minister did not have to say anything, but I want to commend Minister Vaz for bringing him. Because the fact that he was there, sitting in front of us, a man who I personally have no trust in, because he has made a host of promises to us before.
Stick up in. Hold on. The finance minister is a man you don't have trust in?
Absolutely. Because when it comes to the transport sector, he has made several promises, and I think Chance mentioned one, which is the $200 million revolving loan fund, that he said 3% ready for the road. I said to myself, well, 5% would be good. And when we go to the bank, it was 14 and 15%. And as Chance said, some bankers were saying, listen, man, I can get 20% and 18% for this. Right? And he did not say a word on it. And within a few months, that window was closed for us. And no other things that offered to us. Only a few persons got it. National training program.
But stick with it. So before last week's meeting, the finance minister was somebody you didn't have trust in. After the meeting, what's the status of your trust?
Well, you know, because of the way he spoke to us, and one of our minister was there, who we have great confidence in, and asked us to put a number of things before him in proposal to the National Steering Committee. And we believe, and I said several times over, that it will be hell and powderhouse if we don't get these things that we're going to put on the table. I think that, we have to accept the request, not just by the finance minister, by the Minister of Transport for a defer. Because the Minister of Finance did not say in his about maybe 15 minutes presentation that he's asking us to agree for a defer. It is the Transport Minister who did that, right? And we all accept, the entire leadership of the public transport sector accept the defer of the president.
So let me get it straight. So the finance minister laid out the numbers, made a case that you said he didn't have to make, but he laid out made the case, but then the appeal, the emotional appeal, or the appeal to conform was made by the transport minister.
Our minister, yes.
Hold the line for us. We're going to take a break and come right back with more. This is the front page.
You're still tuned into our discussion segment, the front page, having a conversation with two of the leaders out of the transportation sector about the delay of a 16% fare increase. We're speaking with Egerton Newman and Dion Chance. Egerton Newman, before the break, you described it as hell and powder house if it is that the measures that you're thinking of and presenting before the steering committee are not taken into consideration and implemented. What are those measures?
Thank you, Tona. And one of the measures that we're going to be putting to the steering committee is the whole issue of parking facilities for public transport operators. And I want to mention, Chance, I want to say island-wide, Chance, but I want to ask for it to commence in the Kingston Centre and the KMTR, especially in Halfway Tree, because every day there are some 20-25 police officers in Halfway Tree around the clock, 16 persons for stopping and picking up. We have nowhere else to park. And this is what I rate a number of operators who wanted to demonstrate this morning. And I begged them, and they cursed me, and I begged, please. So I want to commend them for not doing that this morning. But they know what they're feeling out there on the roads when all curb walls have been painted yellow. That's another issue. And they're illegal because they're not gazetted. And the policemen and women out there are ticketing taxi operators who stop on those yellow painted curb walls. I think these are things that must be addressed. And ACP Mackenzie in that meeting give a thumbs up to address it, to look into the issue of the markings. We are suffering the pangs of hell, and we cannot sit down and say, okay, a different fare increase and all other things, let them relax and let them go. No, we need these things to be addressed now. So, the curb wall painting, the parking facility, the revolving loan, the training, and there are two others I've forgotten on my list. But these are things that we must ask the minister to address ASAP.
But hold on there. So here's the thing now, gentlemen. Dion Chance, let me start with you. I can see sense in holding strain at this time, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were a member of any of the taxi groups, and you gentlemen are representing me, what I'd be mad about is that you left that meeting without an indicator as to when. There's no timeline to hold the government to, and I'm thinking as I'm thinking in my taximan or taxiwoman hat on.
Mm-hmm.
How could you leave that meeting and not have an idea as to when the thing would be likely to take effect?
Well, let me start
Okay,
off
go
by
ahead.
saying to you that we didn't leave the meeting without any indication or indicators. Mr. Newman mentioned that he somehow forgot a couple of the things. One of the things that will be addressed in short order is the retooling of the sector. Now, a couple of years ago, we were given the go-ahead to do it for 8-year-old vehicles. But what happened was that the way that it was coined is that the brokers or the car dealership imported the vehicle on behalf of the association and its members. And what happened was that these vehicles were sold off to the general public, right? And many of the taximen didn't benefit. Those who bought cars bought it at the same market rate. And this was not the way that it was supposed to be done. So the steering committee has already looked at that. There's a recommendation in front of the minister, and that will be implemented in short order. The steering committee will also be meeting next week to start to coin out some other things. The thing with the parks and stuff.
Hold on, Dion Chance, because I gave you enough time to get there, but you're not get there. I'm saying, what indicator, what did you get out of the meeting to suggest that second quarter, third quarter this year, gentlemen, you'll have your 16%? That's the question I'm asking, because it appears as if you left the meeting without that. That's the point I'm making.
Okay, no, we didn't. The finance minister said that come November, December, the inflation rate should go down, right, based on all indications or indicators. So come the first quarter of 2025, we should, and I don't want to use the word will, but we should be granted the increase at that time. In the interim, the other things to ease the pressure will be implemented, right? So as far as the importation of vehicles to restock goes, the model now, which is there and has been accepted by the minister, is that the individual members will get the import license, their name, and not a blanket where a entity brings it in. That vehicle will belong to that member from the minute it is purchased, en route and cleared in Jamaica, and it is supposed to be bonded over for 3 years before that person can sell. Right?
So that's why I was pushing for the timeline, because I want to know when is your endpoint and what happens between now and the endpoint. The endpoint, of course, being when you get that increase. So you've given that timeline. But here's the thing. Edgerton, Newman, Dion Chance, you gentlemen make a lot of the yellow markings in the corporate area, and the fact that you have nowhere to pick up and set down, I believe it's an injustice. But I've never seen taxi operators coordinate and lobby for the changes in changing this arrangement in the way you all do for fare increase. And I think the millions that you pay in traffic tickets and traffic fines, when effectively the authorities have given you nowhere to operate, I think that's a bigger drain on your resources than you're not getting a 16% fare increase at this time.
Yeah, but
go ahead.
Hold on, Edgerton. That very argument, that particular stalemate problem is being addressed. Is being addressed as we speak, right? And based on discussions with the NWA, which is a part of the steering committee, they are saying that majority of the things were done by citizens for beautification. I don't know where they get that from, but that is the argument. But like Edgerton said, we are there, we're on this one, and it should form part of the next meeting of the steering committee to get closure, because the arguments have already started, and it's not, you see, the difficulty is we only hear of things when they're finalized. And I think that from the leadership, we now as leaders are going to have to start to look at things differently in the way that we put forward and disseminate information. So probably they need to, because educating somebody about something is the greatest thing that you can do while you try to get a better day for them. So I think that we have fallen short, and I would say that as leaders, in disseminating certain information to our constituents, and we'll have to change that, right? So collectively, we're going to have to come together and sit and look at a way to get information out. I know that sometimes when you're a part of a committee and you're discussing issues and items which have not been finalized, it is not best practice to speak out before you see where it is going. But we're going to have to find a way to have the information of things that are being worked on and what is where we are with respect to certain things being disseminated to the membership so they can be informed and understand what is happening. And sometimes when decisions like these come along, they would have a better understanding of reasons as to why. I don't know if Edgerton wants to add anything.
No, Charlie, I don't want to add anything. I just want to say that the media must also look at the issue because they sometimes are to be blamed. Now, if I put 10 things on the table and one item there is fare increase, that's the one the media is going to carry. But the other thing, because we have been talking about these markings for years, you know?
Yeah, well, you're not going to blame the media, though, Edgerton Newman, because here's the thing. No. Hold on. I've never seen a strike threat from any taxi. Wait, no. I've never seen a strike threat from any taxi group for anything other than fare increase.
No,
argument done. So you can't say the media not supporting you and running with the fare increase and leaving everything else.
Run with me, George, if I mention a strike. You will run with me for that, you know. And it's not everything we can strike about. We have to lobby.
Glad you know that.
In the boardroom and in the corridors. I'm telling you though, let me make it very clear. The markings on the yellow line might reach that stage. And Mr. Chan sit before me. As a matter of fact, he's the man on the steering committee. Not really me. I have somebody else there. But Chance, we have to discuss the marking. It's not so prominent in Montego Bay as it is in Kingston and St. Andrew. The guys are getting 7 tickets a day. Right?
So just to understand, because previously you had said that they said to you in the steering committee that it was being used for or done because of beautification purposes. Was anything said in that steering committee about how you guys would go forward? Would they be making changes?
Well,
Mr. Mackenzie, who is in charge of PSTED, he has given a commitment to look at it, and NWA is also supposed to do something to report back to the next steering committee meeting, which will be next week. So I will be able to speak, unable to speak as to what exactly will happen. Maybe we might get closure at the next meeting. You never know.
You seem to be too reasonable, gentlemen.
No, it's not a matter of being
No.
reasonable.
I'm moving on to something. You answer the question. So I'm saying to you
I
that
need to make another point, though.
yeah, man, you're going to make the
Of a vexed issue.
you're going to make the point. But let me ask you this. So hold the point. Keep the point. In an economy that grew by what they said in 2023, 2.6%. In a 2.6% economy, where the problem I believe is that everybody want everything all at the same time. You gentlemen recognize that the stakeholder group that you represent, that it is important for you to continue to be patient and to work towards the pie getting bigger so you can get the hefty slice that you think you deserve. Correct?
Yes.
Yes? And in so doing, holding strain now is not a favor to the administration in office, but it's a civic duty. It's your contribution to the country's push to make itself better and to create better outcomes for all. Correct?
Correct. And not just that. But if I use an analogy, a hamster in a cage is running around on that thing. So you're gonna be going around and round in circles. If we get it now and inflation goes up, we will not see the benefit of that increase, right? So in order not to have inflation eat up that little thing, it's best to hold, right? But there are some issues that are affecting the members, like the contrary being seized for contrary within a township, where you're heading from a village into the major town, and you can't deviate on a road if it's congested to get to the bus park. And this is one of the things, contrary as it is going to another point than what your license says. Like for Montego Bay Transport Center to Mount Salem, and then you're running the vehicle from the transport center to Grand.
Deon Chance?
Instead of going on Barnet Street, you go on Barnet Lane.
Yes.
That's going to be dealt with as well. Because it's a vexing issue. And when they seize it, costs them up to 20-something thousand to get back the vehicle. But there is leaking through the bunks. There's limited resources that our members are gaining.
Yeah. I don't want, George, Titi, I don't want one to believe that you are taking it easy on government. We are leaders. We read to the fine prints. We understand what the two ministers were saying, and we come to an agreement. But we have at least 7 items of mid-term and short-term low-hanging fruit that must be addressed. If those items are being addressed, I tell you, waiting until next year for a fare increase would not be a problem. We need, and I put 300 million more on the 200 million, make it $500 million. That loan is important. Our units are rattling to the ground right now. That is important to the investors.
We're out of time, gentlemen, but if you bring the important issues, the media will assist you. It's not just fare increase, because as Deon Chance said, both of you agreed, that's just one small part of the bigger issue that is affecting transport stakeholders in this country. Thank you for your time this morning, gentlemen. We'll continue the conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Continuing our discussions on that announcement to delay that 16% fare increase for taxi operators, now being joined by the opposition spokesperson on transport, Mikhail Phillips. Good morning to you.
Morning to you and your listeners.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Nationwide this morning. What do you make of that move, Mr. Phillips, to delay the 16% fare increase that was set to take effect yesterday?
Not surprised. From the announcement was made last year by the Minister of Finance and the Transport. we had indicated that if it is that they were trying to control inflation, then, this would be a negative effect to the inflation numbers. But overall, we thought that they would come with a comprehensive transport plan once the minister had organized this sector group, that he would have come with a national transport plan, then look at the different areas which they can either subsidize some of the cost to the operators or come with a plan then in how it is actually going to then increase the fees on to the operators, themselves. Well, commuters to the benefit of the operators. But if you look at the transport sector itself, it has just been left languishing for many years without that plan on how it is that you deal with not only in the urban area but also in the rural area, the lack of parking spaces. We have seen during the whole COVID period when the Prime Minister had announced different packages for the sector itself, which was impossible for them to access. We see the Minister coming back with a similar action, which is not to the benefit of the sector itself. The Minister himself opened up the licensing regime for hackney carriages with the hackney carriage operators within the KMTR a few weeks ago. When we asked the question, how is this going to benefit the sector itself? We just got an ad hoc answer from the minister that is not going to help the sector. So, we expected that this would have happened. The operators got an increase last year of 19%. What was due to them on the 1st of this month is what was deferred. And we're still to hear from the minister how it is that the sector is going to be growing, not only for the operators themselves but for the consumers.
Here's the thing, though. Last week when we spoke to the minister on another program, he said we asked directly if he had if he had spoken to you about the planned deferral. He said that you had an engagement, you couldn't attend the stakeholders meeting, but that he explained what the decision he was going to take was, and he didn't say agreement, but you understood. Am I reflecting correctly what he said to you?
Well, I asked the Minister of Finance at the Standing Finance Committee, would the operators be getting the increase that was promised to them? His response to me then was that it would have to go back to the Cabinet for the Cabinet to take a decision. I asked the Minister of Transport the same day in the Standing Finance Committee when he appeared. And the Minister said that he gave his word, and he expect that his word would be honored. So we see the same government speaking at different sides of the spectrum. So, the minister mentioning it to me on the final day of when the Minister of Finance is speaking in Parliament is not really just consultation. It's telling me that what it is at the meeting that they were having, what it would entail.
When you asked the original question of the Minister of Finance at Standing Finance, was it that you had a feeling, you had some information that they might not be able to keep the commitment, which is why you put the question?
Well, if it is that the minister is rolling back the fares for the JUTC because of inflation, and when he did decide to roll back the fares, I remember getting up in Parliament myself and member Julian Robinson got up in Parliament to say that the reduction in the fares from the JUTC was not going to move inflation down in any way because of the amount of seats that you're offering compared to that of the larger sector within the KMTR itself. And just nationally, the JUTC is a small percentage of seats. So if it is that it is going to be inflation that they're trying to control, then common sense would tell you that this is something that they would probably be reconsidering. And instead of me guessing, I'd say let me ask the minister himself.
Right. So you're saying that this is a common sense move then to ask the public transport operators to hold strain for now?
Well, I expected that they would have, but we have always said that there are many ways that can benefit the sector itself without moving up the fares. And you see, the operators, it is hard for you to say that they should not get an increase, because prior to this last increase, it was years before they saw one. Inflation has moved up tenfold. They have been operating, and we keep on saying that we need to stop treating them as if they are hustlers in a sector, but as investors, businessmen and women who have invested in the transport sector. It is also hard on the commuters themselves, who has to dig deep in their pocket. Right now, what we're offering the commuters, charging them the fares and just what we're seeing on the road, is not what we ought to be giving to Jamaicans in a public transport system. It affects your productivity, it affects your mental state, it affects crime itself. So, the policies have not moved up pace with the growth of the sector. And what we're seeing now is just the ramshackle public transport sector that we have now. So, we can argue the point if they should get it or if the minister should reverse it. But it was the same Minister of Finance and the Minister of Transport who sat in the cabinet with their other cabinet colleagues and approved the increase for the operators, knowing well that it would have an inflationary effect on the economy. So, it was nobody twisted their arms, and they brought it to the public and announced an increase to the traveling to the operators. So, it is that lack of planning and foresight for the sector itself that is a greater concern, more than if it is that they have deferred the increase or not. That's our concern. What will happen to the sector after going through 4 ministers of transport and not seeing any plan itself? It is the policy of the government that has brought JUTC to its back.
And Mr. Phillips, the leaders of those operator groups that we had on earlier did indicate that there's some sort of plan that they're trying to hammer out at the Transport Operators Steering Committee. You're a part of that committee. Have you also indicated on behalf of the opposition?
I have not returned back to
You have not returned to the committee?
I have not returned back to that committee. No, because you see...
Do you have any intention to go back?
Well, let me say this to you. What that committee seems to have morphed into is really the minister deferring his responsibility for policy and putting it to a committee, having the committee agree on a fare increase, having the committee agree on the reduction, on deferring fare increases, than the minister.
So you don't see the committee as a consultative avenue?
Not in its current form, no.
So you have not returned to the committee?
I have not returned to the committee, not in its current form.
But for the opposition, assessing the transportation sector, you're saying that you thought there would be some plan that's coming when they said they're delaying the increase in fares. But what are the other plans? Has the opposition presented?
What in the minister's press release is akin to what was promised during the COVID period. Which did not benefit the operators at all. I mean, the funds that they say they have to unlend back to operators is still sitting there. Hardly anyone has accessed it. We said in the beginning that what is required of the operators is just too onerous for them to access the funds. But no one cares. It's just a grand announcement. The access to, and there are some far-reaching things. We have to look at the greatest cost to the operators is the cost of fuel at the pump right now. In it, how it is that we even maintain our roads is a cost to them.
But hold on, but Mr. Phil, I have to get this clear before we go. We're almost out of time. If you become transport minister, wouldn't you set up a steering committee similar to what VAS has in place now? And wouldn't you give them the same latitude?
I've always said that there has to be broad-based consultation.
And this is not broad-based?
Well, I'm not sure what it is that he's consulting or not. I'm just saying that I expect that the minister would at least come with a plan itself, put it in front of the steering committee itself, and then try and trash out where it is that they need to improve the sector itself.
But assist me right here, Mikhail, because I'm saying, hold on.
As far as
hold on. You've been there, so we are taking your word. Hold on. One meeting. All right, good. So isn't it?
After, no.
Yeah.
And let me just say this, George. The reason why I remember the reason why I removed myself or did not return back is because the minister used my name in saying that I agree on a fair increase when we had no consultation on such. Like, the minister came, the meeting I went to, we spoke about the sector itself and how to improve it. I had no consultation with the minister and I'm not going to be there to rubber stamp.
Yes.
Things that the minister ought to take decisions.
Yes. But hold on now. So the minister has a
No, hold on, George.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that the steering committee is not a good thing. I'm just saying that I've asked for terms of reference for the steering committee. I've not yet gotten that terms of reference. I'm not going to be used as a political pawn to rubber stamp anything, anything.
We have 30 seconds. I have to ask you this. So you don't think it's...
I get that terms of reference, I'm not returning back.
In the short time we have left. So you're saying then that the minister, the way he set it up for the stakeholders to essay the solutions to the problems besetting the stakeholders, you're saying that that's bad policy?
I'm not saying it is bad policy. I'm saying the setup as it is right now, in that the minister himself has not tabled a comprehensive plan on where to move the sector forward, than just ad hoc conversations is not the way that I expected the committee to be moving forward.
Hear you on that.
Until I see that terms of reference to let me know what our responsibilities will also be.
Yes.
I will not go back to be a rubber stamp.
Hear you on that. Hear you loud and clear. Thank you this morning for your time, Opposition Spokesman on Transport, Mikhail Phillips. Really appreciate it. The Member of Parliament for Northwest Manchester.